Hey, fellas, good to see y'all today.
Good to see you.
Hello.
It's Greg's birthday today.
Hey!
Happy birthday
All right,
to Greg.
and the podcast is over. And the podcast is over.
Why is it over?
Well, at least by the time they watch this, it will no longer be my birthday.
Yeah, I remember your birthday 2 years ago. We had a very special surprise for Greg. What happened to you 2 years ago, Greg?
I don't remember what happened to me yesterday.
Huh?
It's a
You
special
remember
birthday.
this.
Yep.
Perhaps we could play the video of that. Michael, how hard would that be to edit that little video into the podcast?
You don't need to do that, Michael.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
might
we'll
could
get-
do
we'll get
that.
it in.
And
Michael, you got a
everybody
one-on-one
laugh.
with me next week.
Yeah. We might just do that. Greg had a little surprise waiting for him in the office. I think there's a video there. How are you guys this week?
Doing good.
Anything good happened to you this week?
Got to spend this moment with you,
Oh,
so that's pretty good.
Well,
Oh, yeah,
crap.
man.
There that
Wow,
is.
What do you want?
well,
It's not even budget time or anything. You want some new equipment or something?
I mean, I wasn't, but that sounds good.
Okay, I'll take it.
Yeah.
All right, good. Well, good. Greg had family in this week
Yep.
for his birthday.
yep, it was good. We had a good visit.
All good stuff.
Good to hang out with people. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. How about you? Anything good for you?
No, got back off vacation.
Okay.
Well, yes, got back off vacation. Nope.
Horrible.
Back on vacation. It's all downhill from there.
Here I am.
No, we're doing really well. Back from vacation, had a good time, but good to get home as well. Back in the swing of things. We're kind of in one of those weeks. This is my first Monday back on the job, so it's been good.
Well, it's good to have you back.
Good to be back.
Yep.
Good to be back with everybody.
Had a good weekend?
We had a good
Here?
weekend.
Yeah.
We really did. Yeah, I think things went well.
Yeah, breakthrough week 3. Is that right?
Yeah.
Week 3.
Mm-hmm.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. Yep. It sure was.
Was it?
Yeah, it was.
I thought it was.
It was fantastic.
It's now time for you guys to start asking me questions.
Matt's sitting in the middle, so I thought we'd let him kind of drive this train today.
I'm just trying not to break down in laughter. I'm good though. We got this.
Okay, let's see.
No, I love how you dove into just talking about this idea of not growing weary, even when you're doing things that are good, and diving into Scripture about just what that looks like. And I feel like there was a lot of, I don't know, maybe permission is the word I would say, that I felt like you were giving the church to just, whether it be take a break or continue doing the right thing, knowing it's the right thing. So I'm curious what kind of led you to that point.
Part of it was just in praying over this verse before I preached it. I just really prayed. Sometimes I think it's good for preachers and teachers to pray over their message and kind of try to envision or let God give them a vision of who they're going to be speaking to and who that message might touch. And I was really drawn to a couple of groups that I mentioned: caregivers, number one, and then like foster parents and adopted parents, who are bringing children into their home. Both of those things are very long-term commitments, that can really wear people out. And so we spoke a little bit to that, but I think as Christians, it's easy to think when we get tired or worn out, we're just not a good enough Christian.
Mm-hmm.
If I really love Jesus as much as I should, or I was as good a disciple as I should, I wouldn't be here thinking about quitting, And so I just wanted to say, and oftentimes when you pray for people and think about that, you just want to say it's okay to feel that way. You're just human, You've been forgiven of your sins. You're saved. You're a Christian. The Holy Spirit lives in you, but you still have limitations as a human being, And I wanted them to be okay with that.
I mean, that was kind of one of the big things right there, is just to simply be able to tell people, hey, it's okay for you to, you're doing the right thing, and you are going to get tired doing that. And you shared a moment from, your and Alexis story where you had one of those moments where you're just tired of doing the right thing. And I don't know. I think sometimes as followers of Christ, we can kind of lose sight of that sometimes we are human, in the midst of all that, and we do get tired of it. But you gave us some good shifts there that we can make in those moments and in those times to help us to move beyond the being weary of doing good. And one of those was to shift out of me mode into we mode. And I kept wanting you to go we when
I
you
kept
would say
thinking of the Wii remote.
that's right. So going into
Never thought
we
about that.
mode.
Yeah.
But man, such a powerful shift. And I don't know. On one hand, it can sound like something that seems very elementary, but how many of us fail to put that into practice? Like, it's so easy for us to just focus in. And man, I so appreciated this when you said we're not talking about moving from selfish to unselfish. That wasn't it. Because where everybody, you're talking about people growing weary and I thought that was a really good point to make right there, to kind of draw people's back attention that this is not a selfish versus unselfish deal, but really surrounding yourself with the right people and finding that community. And so many of us as believers still have yet to dive into that idea of what real community looks like.
It's very true. We get in this me gear, and we run on that, and we take pride in that. We feel like we're supposed to be that way. And I said it yesterday, I'll say it again, particularly men, I think, want to do it by themselves. I've told a story many times of installing a microwave at my house, and I opened the box, and right on top it said, "Don't try this alone." It's plain as day. I mean, they had a big sheet covering the foam, you couldn't miss it. As soon as you open it, do not attempt this alone. And I just took it as a challenge. Like, okay, well, if you say it can't be done, I'm going to do it. And I think there's something good to the fact as human beings, not just men, but as human beings, men and women, we want to rise to a challenge, and we want to prove that we can do something. That can go really too far, though, because there's some things that shouldn't be attempted alone. That microwave was one of them, too. I did it, and it actually went well, and I got so overconfident. I'll tell you a follow-up to that story that I haven't told very often. We moved from that house about 4 years ago, and I had to replace that microwave. And so I had to hang another one. I had to do it. It was white, and I had to put a stainless steel one up so everything would match. And so I got a stainless steel one, and I hung it, but it about killed me. But I was overconfident because I had done it alone the first time, and I thought I would again.
Why not?
And it got hung up there, but I realized in the middle of it, you're being stupid here trying to do this by yourself. You really are. So yeah, we need to lean on the support God has given us.
Do you think it is part of it, the fact that maybe it is more geared toward guys, but I think there's some women out there that kind of are in that me mode as well, that we just don't think that we need it? Or do you think it's something that we push back on? It's a challenge that say, I can do this. But what do you think it is that causes us not to engage in we mode more often?
I think oftentimes we don't think we need help.
Yeah.
We don't realize that we need help. I tend to think, I got this, I can handle this. When I want something done, for me, like if I'm wanting to move some furniture around or hang something or do something, I really just want to get it done now, and I don't want to bother with calling somebody else. So I'd prefer just to break my back trying to do it myself than even bother doing that. It's just a pain to me to have to call somebody and have them come over and trouble them. But I think oftentimes we're not aware of our need for help, and we press on until something breaks, and that's a bad time. I mean, you're going to call for help then, but you don't want to push it until something snaps.
Yeah, I think on the other side of that, sometimes I feel like, I don't know if I can do this, whatever. It's different situations. Like, I don't know that I can do this, and you almost want to see, can I do this by myself? And I think that there's kind of that permission in there to go, why? The same question, why would I want to unload a refrigerator by myself? Like, we're surrounded by people who want to be a part of that and that want to dive into those things. So why would you waste your time trying to prove to yourself that you're so capable of that thing?
It strikes me as well, one of the things we're struggling with at Upward, and we're learning really fast because of the growth we're experiencing here lately, we're learning that doing things by yourself is actually cheating someone else out of a job that they need to learn to do. And I've said this to the staff, and we've passed this message along, that if you're doing something by yourself, you're actually not leading, you're just doing. And what we need with this growth and the scale we're experiencing is leaders who can build teams to get things done.
Yeah.
Because there is a limit on what you can do by yourself. There really is. And I know a lot of pastors, many of them are pastoring smaller churches, and they do absolutely everything.
Right.
And I've been at that place myself in this church
Sure.
when it was smaller, when I preached the sermons, when I visited everyone in the hospital, when I did all kinds of things that I don't do as much of now, simply because of the scale of it. It was a really hard lesson for me to learn as a pastor that I needed to hand things off. And it's still a hard lesson for me to learn, even where we are today. There are things that I try to do that I have to say, no, this is not for me to do anymore.
Right.
I was challenged by that by a consultant just recently who said, hey, that's not your role. You should not be the one doing this anymore. And that's so hard for me.
Yeah.
It's just hard to give up a role that you had. But what happens is the work gets done a whole lot better when you give it to somebody with some capacity to do it instead of being overwhelmed yourself. And you've just added a leader to your team.
Exactly.
And that's something we all have to do. Asking for help has tremendous benefits.
What would you say, and I don't know that there's not one, I'm sure, but what would you say is the biggest thing that we are missing out on if we continue to live our lives in that me mode rather than we mode? What's the biggest benefit that you see? I mean, I that's an opinion thing. I get that, but I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
I really do believe the joy in life are the relationships. I really do believe that. I can tell you over the years, we've seen. I used to think that when the church was smaller, I used to think if we can ever get to this size, I'll be happy.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're 3 times larger than anything I ever dreamed of right now.
Right.
I thought of a certain miracle number we would hit, and we've tripled that at least. And and I can tell you this in all sincerity, the church getting bigger does not actually make me happy.
Right.
I'm glad that it is, but it doesn't actually fill what I was looking to be filled. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
What does, number one, obviously, is Jesus, a
Yes.
relationship with him. Yeah. The thing I'm most happy about that gives me the most joy and satisfaction is the relationships I have with you guys and with leaders and just the people who are coming. My opportunity to go around and talk to them and hear their stories and just experience what Jesus is doing in their lives and see them connect with each other and relationships getting built. That's the real joy of it all. And so many people miss that.
Yeah.
I'm shocked sometimes when I get to know people, and I try to get to know as many people as I can. I'm shocked when I get to know some highly successful people in this community and in our world who just don't have any friends. They just don't. And it's like we may do something and we find out they don't do that with anybody.
Right.
I think our culture has got this, and we're always dogging social media. I think there's some good uses of it, but I think it creates this false sense of community that you see people's pictures and comment and like and whatever, and see stories and reels, and it's almost a fake connection, and we miss that when we live in me mode, when we try to do it alone.
That's good. It's real good.
And that ties into to where you went with, I'll say it wrong, but Chronos, and Kairos.
Chronos and Kairos, yeah.
Just that idea of it's so easy to get focused on that Chronos and kind of that what's next, what's happening, what are we doing on the timeline, instead of really looking for those moments. And I loved how you gave the illustration of just that moment on vacation of this is one of those moments, but I think it's so easy to get distracted by what's next. What do I have to do next? What's the next thing? Instead of just going, where's the moment he's got for me today?
Yeah, I have missed so many moments because I was thinking about Chronos. Chronos, if they didn't hear the sermon, is just the planning, the measurement of time and hours and days and months and all. And Kairos are just those moments, those appointed times that God gives us when it's just like life springs up and God opens up something there. I think of several times that I was in and I just remember this more than anything. I think of several times that my children had a program at school, and I was there, but I wasn't there. They were up on stage doing the program, but I can think of several times that they were doing something, and I was sitting out in the audience worried about something I had to get done.
Right.
And I think, man, I missed the Kairos, worrying about the Chronos. And I think that's one of the things that can really weary us more than anything is when we're thinking about the Chronos. When is this going to happen?
Right.
It's so slow. How do I push this along a little faster? And when we live in the Kairos, the appointed time, we know that God has an appointment for that harvest, that God has a time to bring forth what he wants to bring forth. Some of it on this earth, some of it is even in eternity past this life. But if we sow the right seed, we're going to get the right harvest. And so when we live in the kairos of God, we trust him with that. It's on his appointment book, and we don't have to fret over it. That's a lot easier to sit here and say it than it is to do it.
Right.
Everything is. But I've learned a lot about that.
Practically speaking, what does it look like for us to live focused more on the kairos than the chronos? What is that? How can I do that? Because I know I'm gonna be honest with that. Not living by the calendar and by the appointments, and everything. That's nerve wracking to me a little bit. So to be able to focus more on the moments, how do I do that?
Well, I think one of the things that I've seen over the course of ministry over 30 years is that oftentimes an interruption in my schedule was a kairos.
Yeah.
That when God sent someone my way that was unplanned, may have been a need, it may have been an encouragement, it may have been a phone call, wasn't strictly what I planned, but I found that was the life of God for that day.
Yeah.
That was the moment I was called to face in that day. I think you got to be open to interruptions in your calendar. I really do.
Yeah.
And I think you got to see it. I think you just have to slow down from your manic obsession with, I hate to say it because it almost sounds lazy. We can be so obsessed with productivity and cramming everything we can do into every day that we miss life itself.
Boy, you just opened up a can that could be a whole other podcast completely on its own. But no, I completely agree with that. We do get so hurried and always on to the next thing and what we got to do to be productive that we don't build in time for interruptions. We don't allow for interruptions, and interruptions we completely bypass.
I remember as a young pastor, and I can see myself in my office. It was over on Washington Street in Hendersonville, and I can see myself in my office there. I would do the church calendar every month. You talk about doing everything. There was a lot. I had some help too. I didn't do everything, but I did a lot of stuff. And I would put together the church calendar. And I remember it was my goal in my head to have something every day on the calendar, something going on, maybe a prayer meeting a night or a practice. And I remember the month we achieved it. I looked on that calendar, and we had something every night. And I really looked at it with this satisfaction saying, we're a success now.
Yeah.
We've got something going on every night. That's absolutely wrong, 100%. The goal is not to fill up the calendar with stuff going on. It's not. Because what I wound up doing, we ran on that for a couple years. And we moved into this building. I mean, it was full speed ahead, 90 miles an hour all the time. Do something else, add something else. And I was driven by this concept of success. Something's going on every night. We had a big year one year when we did like a fall event, this kind of fall outreach event. It was a Judgment House for people who are familiar with that. We did that here. I can't remember the year, but it's been a long time ago. And we did one of those, and right after it, we did a big Christmas production. So we had everybody here getting ready for Judgment House for weeks, put on that whole program, and as soon as that ended, many of the same people turned right around again and jumped into practice for a big Christmas production. And so we got done with Christmas, and that January, several of his families left the church.
Wow.
You know why? They were just burned out.
Tired.
We worked them so hard, we burned them out.
Yep.
And I realized these guys haven't really had a good night home with their family, many of them, in months.
Wow.
So we peeled that schedule back. We never did a Judgment House again because we couldn't do Christmas and that. And since then, we have pared back a whole lot on what we actually put on our calendar. The focus now is more on connect groups and people doing stuff. And I would say there is something going on at Upward every night of the week now, but it's groups. It's not the whole, we're not trying to get
everybody on,
globally, everybody in here together.
Well, I mean, I think that's two huge things that you just mentioned right there, being open to interruptions and slowing down, not being in such a hurry all the time. That's two huge things right there for us that, once again, are difficult to implement, but if we will, it helps us to be more focused on the Kairos.
I think young families need to hear this too.
Yeah.
I've raised kids, and I've got it, and I've got 2 great kids, and I don't want to use them to say I'm a wonderful parent. Look at my kids, but we got some wisdom there. Alexa's had a lot of it, and my kids get a lot of credit. They're just great people, both of them. But one of the things we learned is we needed to have time alone as a family at home doing nothing.
Yeah.
Because it's in those, quote, doing nothing moments that life hits you and they ask questions. And I think there's a pressure on young families that we have to get our kids involved in so many things or we're not being good parents. You know, there's baseball and football and all those are good things, and dance and school and everything. And you can run so hard to these events, and you can be sitting in the bleachers and the kids out there on the field, and you're not really interacting with them. You drove them there and back, you know. And I think we can fill the calendar so much with activities for our kids that we just don't have time to be at home with them. And the things I remember the most is just being at home with my kids.
Right.
I didn't always have that together.
Yeah.
And everybody will always struggle to keep that balance where it needs to be. But that's an important lesson. That's how to seize the Kairos. Because the Kairos comes in a lot of times on your way to the grocery store.
Right.
I would get my kids, you know, I'd go to the grocery store and I'd try to get one of them to get in the car with me. The older they got, the harder it was.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to the grocery store. But many times, just riding to the grocery store, they would ask me a question, and it was a Kairos moment that I'll remember forever. Wouldn't have happened if I'd have been busy
Yep.
on my productivity calendar.
Good. That's really good.
Not to say those things are bad, but we got to seize the Kairos.
This has been good. This is real good.
I'm glad. I hope it helped.
Yep. I think so.
Okay, what's coming up this week? Anything good?
I don't know. You tell us.
Anything good?
I sure hope so. I hope I have something good to say about Thursday.
Breakthrough week 4.
Okay, that's all I can call it right now. I think I'm actually going to get around this week to preaching the message I hope to open up this series with, which is crazy. The last 2 weeks have been just things God put on my heart.
You'll give a quick shout out to Pastor Luke. We didn't get a chance to break down his message, but man, he did a great job the previous week.
Oh, everybody's telling me what a great job Luke did, as they do when you guys preach as well. We've got such a great team that when I'm gone, people are excited to hear from y'all. They really are, and that's part of the strength here. It's not just about me being up there preaching. It's about all of us. So they're going to be hearing more from y'all this year, and we're excited. It's
We mode for real.
Yeah, we'll try to end with that before it gets any worse. See y'all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.